The world often asks, why would China and Taiwan ever fight? The secret lies in history, identity, and survival. To understand it, you have to go back to 1949, when a civil war in China reshaped Asia. The Communist Party, led by Mao Zedong, took control of mainland China. The defeated nationalist government, led by Chiang Kai-shek, fled across the sea to the island of Taiwan. From that moment, two Chinas existed, one on the mainland, one on the island. The communist government in Beijing declared itself the sole ruler of all China, including Taiwan, but Taiwan built its own government, its own army, and eventually, its own democracy. Decades passed, and two very different societies grew apart. On the mainland, one-party rule. On the island, freedom and elections. What began as a temporary split hardened into two separate realities. Yet for Beijing, Taiwan was never gone. Chinese leaders call it a breakaway province, a piece of the motherland that must return home. For Taiwan, the story is different. Many of its people no longer see themselves as Chinese at all, but as Taiwanese. This difference in identity, one side insisting on unity, the other insisting on self-rule, is the core of the conflict. The tension sharpened in recent decades. As Taiwan became more democratic, its leaders started speaking more openly about independence. For Beijing, even the word is unacceptable. China's government has warned again and again. If Taiwan ever officially declares independence, war will follow. This threat is written into China's laws, carved into its military plans, and repeated in speeches. Taiwan, meanwhile, lives under a constant shadow. Its people go to school, build businesses, and live normal lives, but always with the knowledge that across the sea lies a giant that could strike. Chinese warplanes cross into Taiwan's air defense zone almost daily, testing its resolve. Chinese ships circle the island, rehearsing a blockade. These actions are not just military exercises, they are messages. Beijing is reminding Taiwan that its freedom rests on fragile ground. But Taiwan is not defenseless. Its military is smaller, but it is trained for survival. Soldiers drill for invasion scenarios, preparing to defend beaches and cities. The island's geography is a natural shield. Mountains, rough seas, and narrow straits make invasion costly. Taiwan also relies on weapons from the United States, from advanced missiles to modern aircraft. Every deal is meant to slow down or even stop a Chinese assault, at least long enough for international help to arrive. This brings us to the global stage. For America, Taiwan is not just a faraway island. It is a symbol of freedom and a key ally in the Pacific. The U.S. does not officially recognize Taiwan as a country, but it sells it weapons and has hinted it would defend it. This policy, known as strategic ambiguity, is meant to keep Beijing guessing. Will America fight for Taiwan? No one can be sure, and that uncertainty itself is a weapon. Japan, Australia, and other regional powers also watch closely. If Taiwan falls, they fear China's power will grow unchecked. The island sits on a vital chain of sea routes. Whoever controls Taiwan controls a gate to the Pacific. That is why this conflict is not just local. It could reshape global power. Beyond geography and politics, there is another reason the fight matters. Technology. Taiwan is the world's leader in semiconductors, the tiny chips that power phones, computers, cars, and even weapons. Almost every major company in the world depends on Taiwanese factories. If war ever broke out, those supply chains would collapse, and the world would face an economic shock like nothing seen before. For some, this makes Taiwan too valuable to abandon. For others, it makes Taiwan too dangerous to risk. China's leaders often say they prefer peaceful reunification. They offer promises of one country, two systems, the same model once used for Hong Kong. But in Taiwan, few believe those words. The world saw what happened in Hong Kong, where freedoms were eroded under Beijing's rule. For Taiwanese people, that promise feels like a trap. So the conflict continues, year after year, in words, in drills, in threats. Both sides know the cost of war would be enormous. China would face fierce resistance, crippling sanctions, and perhaps U.S. intervention. Taiwan would face destruction, invasion, and the risk of losing its freedom forever. Yet neither side steps back. Beijing insists unification must happen, and Taiwan insists its people have the right to decide their future. This is why the fight is so dangerous. It is not just about land, it is about identity, pride, and survival. For China, Taiwan's independence challenges the Communist Party's claim to power. It cannot afford to let it go. For Taiwan, surrendering would mean the end of democracy and several both see the issue as life or death. The secret behind the China-Taiwan conflict is that it is more than politics. It is about two different paths born from one civil war. One became a global superpower, the other became a vibrant democracy. The gap between them has grown so wide that bridging it seems impossible. And as long as both sides hold firm, the risk of a fight remains. The world watches nervously, because everyone knows that if China and Taiwan clash, it will not just be their war. It will be a war that touches every ocean, every market, every nation. That is why this conflict is often called the most dangerous flashpoint in the world. The question is not only if China and Taiwan will fight, but what the world will look like if they do.